All right. Hello, everyone. This is David Bryant, Mr. Support Friend, and I'd like to welcome you to session 7 of my personal development training. This is a session that I really am going to enjoy providing for you. This is something that we're going to talk about that I've personally been doing ever since I was a child. As a matter of fact, it started out because of my circumstances growing up, and we'll get into that in a moment. But I really think this will be very valuable to you as you're trying to, again, communicate with other people or know the best effective way to be able to, talk to somebody or to be able to evaluate who they are and be able to interact with them effectively, okay? So let's get to the actual name of this session, and that is the 3 awareness tools. Awareness. How many people go through their day and they're just not that aware? They're functioning, they're doing what they have to do, but are you aware of your surroundings? Are you aware of the energy of people? Are you just aware in the environments that you're in? A lot of people don't even think about it. They're just going and doing what they do, but are you aware of what's going on in a room? Are you aware of what the energy of somebody else is? Are you aware of yourself and how you may be coming across to other people? So we're going to talk about what I call the 3 awareness tools. They're very, very simple, but when you can learn how to actually master these tools and be able to know how to utilize them in a specific order, because it's a natural order that you'll see that they will occur, it can really help you when you're communicating or evaluating people and trying to figure out, what's the best way to communicate with others or collaborate with others. All right, so one of the most important qualities you can have is the ability to use your awareness. Developing your awareness will be one of the most valuable assets that you have, okay? It's gonna be one of your most valuable assets. This session includes 3 important tools related to developing your awareness called the 3 awareness tools. Let's take a look at these tools and discuss how you can use them. All right, so here we go with our little charts that we use, our tables. First awareness tool, number 1, look. Look. All right, so it's a visual, right? If you can look, if you have your sight, then you look. Now, the things that you should do while interacting with people in this awareness tool is to look at their eyes, look at their posture, their body posture, look at their body language, and their facial expressions. If you look at somebody and you get that first impression, you look at them and you'll see things. If you're aware, you will see certain things. Now, I know I've been doing this since I was a child. The reason why this was something that I developed early on and continue to use in different types of situations throughout my life was because, as many of you know my story, I was discriminated against when I was a child. And when I would come into contact with another individual, I actually started to be able to develop my ability to look at somebody and get a certain type of take on them, like how do I actually feel about that person, and I'd look at their body language, I'd look at their eyes. Did they look friendly? Did they look as though that they were going to maybe do some harm to me? These were things that I started to do naturally, or I started to be able to see common patterns in different people. Did they smile when they saw me? Did they look away? These types of things were just a natural progression for me growing up. So when I kept going through life and I would use that to kind of feel my way through, what does this person feel like to me when I look at them? I started to use it when I was in my music career, where I could look at somebody like I'm pretty good at this, and it's just because I've done it for a really long time, and you can learn how to do it. You may be already good at this, but when you can just look at somebody and, you may not be right 100% of the time, but the odds are going to be in your favor. You can look at somebody and feel if they're like a free-spirited, creative type of person, or if they're uptight, if they kind of feel like they're very conservative or, really within themselves. They're not like outward in the way that they have their body language. If you look at their eyes and their eyes are kind of squinty versus their eyes being wide open, if they have a smile and they're just a person who's just full of the beaming with energy coming out of their facial expression, are their shoulders slumped over? Do they have body posture? Can you tell, type of a person, at least growing up in arts and entertainment, I could definitely get a pretty good idea if somebody was a musician, a singer, a hairstyle, would have, give me a tip off, just the free spirited, what the types of clothes that they're wearing. A dancer would always have good body posture. Like if you notice dancers, they're usually maybe in shape, naturally, and then they actually have good body posture, there's a lot of things you can look. You can look at somebody and feel if at least I can, and you should be able to develop this to look at somebody and tell, do you feel as though they are a leader or a follower? Are they the type of person that you feel like is an in charge type of personality just by the way they carry themselves in the way that they look? What's their grooming like? Are they neat or are they kind of sloppy? Which doesn't mean good or bad in one way, but it can kind of maybe give you an indication. Is this person like somebody who has to have everything is like perfectly in order in the way that they look, or they don't care? They're just, stuff's hanging out all over. They've got different color coordination. How about the colors that people choose to wear? Some people wear bold colors. Other people wear black. Other people, if a person is wearing a color that's not like out there and it's not vibrant, maybe they want to not be out there. Maybe that's just their style, or maybe they just feel comfortable in clothing that doesn't like bring attention to them, right? These are all things that if you are aware and you see somebody, you're going to get a feel for that instantly, like right away when you look at somebody. Observe who they associate with. Who are they hanging around with? Who are they talking to? Do you see them, hanging around and talking to certain types of people? So for example, again, going back to two types of people, let's take somebody who might be in the financial world, who might be in corporate. They may be wearing a suit, or she may be wearing a nice, outfit that would be more conducive for a corporate office environment. Then you can go look and see somebody who might be a painter or an artist. And you'll see that they're, wearing these free-spirited, nature types clothes, where it's like all this loose clothing and it's not all corporate-y, right? Who are they associating with? Are the people they're talking to or the people they hang out with? Are their friends in fields and careers that might be similar to theirs or opposite to theirs? There's just a lot of stuff that you can kind of gather by just observing people, by just looking at people and looking at environments as well, because it's also about, looking at the environments that people are in, right? So do they interact with positive, like-minded people? If you know that the types of people, it's just like this, just bring it down to the street level. If you see some kids that are hanging out in the street corner and they're hanging out with gang members or something like that, or that those kids are getting into stuff, then it can give you an idea of what that might be. Does that send a signal to you that that's a comfortable energy? Is it a dangerous energy to you? You could see somebody walking down the street and you might get a first impression, this person doesn't feel right to me. I'm going to keep my antenna up. Or this person makes me feel very comfortable in the way that they are presenting themselves, in the way that they, handled themselves, or who they're hanging out with. It can go both ways. Are they upbeat? Are they animated and full of energy? Or are they calm? Somebody in a room where you'll just see them sitting and they're just looking at everybody and they're not saying very much. They're very quiet. They may give a quiet smile. They may nod their head slowly. And then there's somebody else who's talking with their hands. Their hands are going everywhere. Oh my gosh, they're blah, 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 right, like this person like that. You can tell a lot about a person based on how they look and act in the moment or in the past. You can look at people in the way they were in the past and how they are now. There can be changes, right? It can tell you, wow, that person used to, let's talk about weight management because we talk about it, right? Let's say that you went to high school with somebody and you had one impression of them, 10-year reunion, they come and maybe they've either gained a lot of weight or they've lost a lot of weight and they look completely different. There's a completely different energy, or they've matured where they used to be very immature. And now you look at them and they look, wow, what happened to you? You've totally changed. 10 years has really changed you, whatever it might be. You can look at that and you can kind of, figure out, that's interesting, and get an assessment, just a first impression assessment of somebody that you can utilize to help you in your awareness. And again, this goes back to communication. So then you're going to be communicating with somebody like this, then maybe you have a first impression and you could be completely wrong. This is the part that's really interesting. You could think that by what you see is one thing, but then as you start to go to these next awareness tools, you'll start to see a difference in what you originally thought, or it could be consistent with what you saw initially. So the first thing is look. You can tell a lot about people, but it's not going to tell you as much as awareness tool number 2, which is learning how to listen to what people say. Listening is number 2. All right, awareness tool number 2, listen. This is huge, right? Listen to the tone and the energy of the person's voice. That can tell you so much. Does the person talk, like very calmly and down and not with a lot of force? Or is this person really like project and they have this great projection? Do they have a voice that is real pleasant? Or is their voice, maybe in a way that's kind of like squeaky or something like that, that just doesn't appeal, sometimes. Doesn't mean they're a bad person. It just means that sometimes you just hear stuff and you go, wow, that's interesting. Okay, that's where that person's energy is, right? Again, these are first impressions to be able to make some awareness assessment of who this person might be. Then you have to go through the discovery process of listening to what you hear them say. So is what you hear calm, anxious, joyful, angry, confident, uncertain, passionate? I mean, think about all those. A calm person who has a very calm voice and talks at a slower pace. Is this the energy of that person? And when you're interacting with them, are you going to fit yourself into that energy to make the flow work? Are you just going to be yourself and not be thinking about their energy? Maybe it would be more effective if you were somebody who talked a little faster and you saw somebody was a calm person who takes a lot of energy in and can bring the mood of a situation down to where they like it to be in a flow like that. And maybe you're a person like I'm talking and I'm projecting in this presentation. So I'm out here putting energy out to give it some energy and to be able to present with a projection. But if I heard somebody talking calmer, I might go, oh, that's great. I might bring my energy down a little bit and try to get in sync with a person and, be able to flow. Because when you can flow and you can have communication, things can get done often because there's comfort in the way the flow was. Were they anxious? Oh my God, oh my gosh, what are we going to, if the jittery person, it could tell you, wow, this person's really nervous. They're uncertain. Like, what's going on with them? Are they joyful? Wow, I'm just so excited. My smile on my face because you look at me and you see my smile and the words coming out of my mouth are just full of joy and I am happy. And you're like, wow, I want to be around that person because they're putting out all this positive energy. Then there's a person who's really angry and is talking like this all the time. And it's got that forceful thing, or you hear somebody talk to their kids, hey, and they're doing something in an aggressive manner, and it can tell you about their personality. Wait, they just talk to their kids like that, talk to their spouse like that, talk to their parents like that. That's an indicator to me to where that person's personality might be. But you have to go through the process of discovery, but first impression indicators. Are they confident? Man, the way that person spoke about what they had to offer and what they were sharing, it's like, I'm ready to go. Sign me up. I want to buy that product. I want to join your group, because they had confidence. But if somebody else did not have confidence, they were uncertain, is it going to make you want to join that or be a part of it, right? Because you're listening and you're figuring out passion as well. Okay, listen to the words they use when they talk. Do they use language that is doubtful or confident? Well, I hope so. I'm not really sure. I guess so. Hey, it sounds like your project's going really well. I guess so. I mean, I think it is. I mean, I hope so, right? I don't know. Or somebody's like, absolutely, we are so excited. And you know what? Blah, 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 blah. Okay, there's another type of person. And you're just going, okay, that person has a lot of confidence in what they're talking about. This other person's like, well, I'm not really sure. I don't really know. And then it can tell you something. Are they an introvert? Are they an extrovert? Are they a 50-50? Remember when we go back to the actual status and personality, are they a follower? Are they a peer? Are they a mentor? All this stuff kind of works together. Are they soft-spoken or do they speak loudly? Do they speak clearly or are they scattered with their thoughts? Now, clarity can be very good, but I can tell you, I've been around a lot of creative people that are like, oh my, to follow them is challenging sometimes, but they're genius, okay? Because they have a lot in their mind, but they don't transfer it out through their mouth in a way that's clear because they're so creative and they can see things and visualize, and there's stuff going on in their mind that, if we just do this, and it's just got, and you're like sitting there going, man, like the person's a genius, but it's hard to follow them. People who play instruments sometimes, won't be very clear and concise with their playing, but they'll be free spirited, man. So you're just like, you're listening. You're listening. When you master the art of listening, it's one of the most important things you can do to develop your awareness. And that helps you develop as far as your personal development is concerned, because now you're heightened in your awareness. And that'll give you advantages when it comes to communication if you really pay attention to what people say. And if you listen, sometimes you don't have to speak that much, but if you listen, while other people are going to give you a lot of information about themselves, it'll allow you to have responses that can fit the situation or the circumstance. So again, if you hear somebody that's soft-spoken, you may take another approach to the way you talk to that person, because you can realize that their spirit, their energy is soft and easy. So maybe you want to get a little softer, a little easier with your natural self. If you're already there, then it'll be a natural match. But let's say you're a bold person. That might be too much for a soft person, and it may not be effective in communicating with them and getting to where you want to go with them in terms of communication. If you're trying to, get them involved with your team, or get them involved with your business, or there's a relationship. Maybe that you're the person that has that outgoing energy, and this is a shy person. That could be a good balance, because they need you and you need them. They can calm you down and you can build them up and bring stuff out of them, right? So it's not a negative judgmental as much as it is an evaluation, so that you're using your communication skills. And I can tell you, I've used this throughout my whole life, starting when I got the discrimination happening as a child, to be able to identify that person's safe, that person's not. I got to watch out for that person. This person gives me nothing but good feelings. I want to be over here with this person. And I would be able to do this very quickly just by looking at somebody and listening to what they had to say. Okay, and the eyes as well, going back to look. When people can't look you in the eye easily, be a little cautious with that, because people should be able to look at you and you should be able to feel through their eyes. You know how they say the eyes are the windows to the soul, right? That saying, it's kind of true that when you look at somebody's eyes, you can get a feeling for them. That's why when you look at negative people, right, and they talk about people who have been murderers and stuff, when you look in their eyes, right, you can see something's off, right? Like, how you'll see a mugshot and you'll go, well, that's the person that, killed these people or did something really bad. And you just look and you go, man, they look disturbed. Like they don't look right, right? That's what I'm talking about, is that you're able to look. So imagine you walk into a room and this person is an unknown entity, not that they've killed somebody or done something bad, but you just look at them, but you're looking at them and something doesn't feel right to you, right? Which is why we're going to get to the next awareness tool, which is the magic in everything. You look, you listen, and you feel. The feel is the key to everything. Feel what you see and hear from the person. Feeling confirms your awareness, and being aware of your feelings is so very important. Feel the person's energy. Is it high energy, low energy? Is it somewhere in between? Does it make you feel comfortable, uncomfortable? This is what I was doing when I was a kid. Imagine this, I was 8, 9, 10 years old, and when I would get into situations with both children and adults, I could start to naturally feel energy. I can't explain it to you, but I just knew when somebody was for me or against me. I was usually right 90% of the time. I could look at somebody who was, racist and just had that, they were projecting to me this feeling of disapproval. And I could look at their eyes. I could look at the way they looked at me. I could feel the tone of the energy they talked to me. I know I'm getting into my personal story, but I can just tell you, I remember one story very, very vividly and clearly. When my mother would drop me off at school, which was kind of right down the street, she would drop me off before she went to work. And she dropped me off to school. And they had these two teachers, Mr. Schneider and Miss Hutchinson. They actually had a little affair going on. This is elementary school. and they had a little affair going on that all of us found out about later. But they were the teachers that were kind of like the kid monitors. When the parents would drop off the kids, they'd be in the front of the school greeting the parents and the kids and all that, along with a few other teachers. But they were always together. And they basically did not like the fact that my parents were married. They didn't like me, okay? And when my mom would drop me off, I will always remember, especially Mr. Snyder, how he would smile at my mom with a fake smile. He would just go, "Hi, Mrs. Bryant," like that, "Okay, David, yeah, you like this." And the minute my mom would drive off, he would give me this snarl, condescending look. And I used to tell my mom, and she used to say, "Well, son, just ignore that. He's who he is. We know who he is, blah, blah, blah." And they didn't want to create confrontation or make life more difficult for me in the situation. So they taught me to just ignore stuff. I'll be aware of it, but ignore it. Don't let it affect me. That whole thing about my mindset, right? And I still have that vision in my mind, and I'm almost 58. 50 years later, I can still see Mr. Snyder's eyes and the way that he used to look at me with, disdain, like he couldn't stand me and I was despicable. He had that energy, right? So taking that as an extreme, there are people sometimes in a room where I can feel where they're just kind of like judgmental and they don't feel right. Now, I make mistakes and other people make mistakes, but I'm trying to tell you that if you use this stuff, you can actually put yourself in a better starting position. And as you're going through the process, communicating with somebody, listening to what they say, see what type of words they use. Do they use aggressive language? Do they use, calm language? Like, listen to the words they use. Is the tone of their stuff, condescending? Do they talk about people and they're not open, to other people's ideas and thoughts? You'll get an idea for who this person might be. And as it keeps developing, you'll be able to make your decisions as to how you communicate with that person if you have to deal with them. All right. So does this person give you a dark, heavy down feeling or a bright light up feeling? You know how there's some people you can just, oh my gosh, I want to be around them. They actually can make you smile with their smile. They can make you laugh with their laugh. They can bring you up with their energy. That is feel. Trust what you feel, pay attention to what you feel, and then combine your feelings with your values, your faith, and your intellect to influence your actions, responses, and questions while interacting with one person or a group of people. So you want to look, listen, and feel, right? And then trust your feel as to when you get to that third, part of it, the feel. How do I feel about this person? Here, what's my first impression? What's my second impression? How does this align up to my values? So if you start hearing somebody go, you know what? It's just like, I don't think women are good leaders. If you heard that come out of a guy's mouth with a group of guys, no women in the group, right? Or, boy, did you see her blank? I mean, I heard so much of that in the music industry. Guys talking about women in ways that just weren't cool. And these guys had power, right? Just all the things you hear in the Me Too and all of that, it existed. It probably still exists. And it will always exist because there's always going to be guys that think like that and talk like that. And when they get around other guys, they think it's cool that they can sit there and talk like that. Well, if you're in a meeting and you have to function with a boss or with a coworker who might have that, pay attention to what that guy says. Know that that's where he's coming from, right? And evaluate that and say, okay, how do you feel about that, right? If you're a woman and you're in that situation, it's going to be an entirely different deal. Because if he says something like that in front of you, that's a whole nother level, depending upon you and, call the HR, right? Or if you're outside of that situation, then pay attention to that. Pay attention if you're in relationships. Let's talk relationships. If you're getting into a relationship with somebody new, listen to the way they talked about their ex. Listen to the way they talk about their kids, their parents. Listen to the way they talk about people. It will give you a really, listen, and then how do you feel? Right? You see how you put listen and feel together in that situation. I'm just giving you off the top of my head easy examples. Why am I telling you this? Because if you want to get done and accomplish what you need to get done, these are the skills that you can develop as your personal development skills and awareness that could help you to be successful. And I can assure you and tell you that in the different environments that I've been in, where people were trying to get deals to happen, they were trying to persuade people to come their way, to do something with them. They study people. They figure out what motivates this person. I used to watch it a lot, like when they were trying to sign music artists, there were certain record executives that were smooth. I got to give you these stories because they're kind of really interesting to listen to, right? There was one record executive, and he's at Apple now. His name is Jimmy Iovine, right? This guy was like so smooth. He came from a creative side as a recording engineer and producer, and then he became the president, CEO, chairman of Interscope Records, and was responsible for a lot of the stuff that was very hot and trendy in the 90s and the 80s, into the 2000s. Before that, in the 80s and the 70s, he was doing a lot of rock bands that are like Hall of Fame people. And now he's at Apple. He and Dr. Dre, collaborated on the Beats headphones, right? And so Jimmy is one of the elite masters at being able to convince people to do what he wanted to do, okay? And he had ways in which he did it that were so smooth. It was like he knew there was going to be resistance to what he was trying to get, but he would paint a vision and a picture. He would know what really motivated somebody. He would know how to push their button of what really motivated them to want to do something. And he would do stuff like sometimes just like I remember, you really want to do that, man? Like he would put that doubt in where they were heading away from him. And then he would flip it around and he would tell the person why that's going to be a mistake. Because he already knew what they were thinking. He already knew how they felt. He already knew what motivated them, right? And this happens in business all the time. In corporate America, the people that cut deals, there are some people that are just so persuasive. I had a friend who worked in corporate America. Her father was the CEO of a rubber tire company in Brazil, and then she was over here in the U.S. and she became an executive. She was like a regional director of sales for a food company, and she had to go do a meeting with the CEO of Albertsons, and these are all older men, and she was in like her mid-30s. And these older men were in charge. They had a lot of power. She knew how to talk to these older men, and she used to talk to me about it. She goes, David, she goes, I just go in and I make myself very vulnerable. And you remember when we were talking about mentors and you're somebody that you're looking up to. She used that technique. All right. She knew exactly what she wanted. She knew that she would be able to get them. She used to tell me all the time, man, I had them wrapped around my finger by the end of the presentation because she blew them away with her knowledge. So they respected her, but she also showed them what was in it for them. And she also was submissive to their leadership. In other words, she didn't tell them this is what we need to do, even though she knew that's what they needed to do. She presented it to them in a way where they felt as though they were making the decision. She set it all up and she was a master at that. She went on to work at Goodwill Industries, and she was able to get like Disney to do stuff that they never did with Goodwill in Los Angeles, because she was heading up a division of helping, Goodwill to be able to get Disney to give them products and help support their programs and stuff. That for years, nobody could do this. But she had this ability because she learned it from her daddy. Her daddy was the older CEO, and he taught her, this is the way you want to talk. When you're talking to older men who have a lot of power and you're young, they're going to naturally think, well, who's this young girl coming in here trying to tell me what to do? That might be in their mindset. So that's not going to offend her. She's going to know, if I want to get this deal, I'm going to figure out how to communicate with these guys. If it's communicating with a group of women and she knows she has to shift her energy because she knows women are going to deal differently in situations than women or men might, she will shift her energy. This is natural stuff that people do. And this is what, if you learn how to read people, know who you're talking to, feel the energy, and then put out what it is that you're going to put out, you will be very, very successful. Last thing I want to say, because this will also be important for women especially, in the music industry, a lot of men, definitely didn't treat women with a lot of respect, especially when I was there, and it still probably goes on, okay? And, when women would try to pitch what they wanted to like a producer or a record executive or, a manager or something like that, and that whole casting couch overtone was going, there were some women that just could not get past that. And the men used to use their power and they weren't that effective. But there are two women in particular that I used to watch master this, where they would come in and they were confident in their energy, almost sending a signal to the men that even though I might look good, and even though you may be thinking thoughts in your head about me that are inappropriate, you're not going to even think about saying anything to me. Just by their body language, just by the way they came in with confidence, I'm here to do business and you're not going to mess with me. And if you do, I'm going to turn into your mommy and I'm going to basically scold you. So don't even open your mouth trying to go down that road. They just had this way where every single time that I saw them in a meeting, they would completely be able to disarm very, very powerful men. Even though they were attractive women, successful women, their communication in the way that they did it just totally disarmed the men. The men couldn't be foolish and do stupid stuff that I used to see other men do. Because I used to see it all the time, how they talk to these singers and, just say inappropriate stuff. And you just go, man, this guy's got so much power, it's really hard to speak up. I had a girlfriend that I was dating that was signed to a record label. And I heard the guy that was in charge of her career at that label say something to both her and to me. And if I would have opened my mouth at that moment and really called him on that, she would have lost her record deal. I couldn't do it. But I certainly identified who he was from that moment. And he knew that and I knew that. And we didn't really get along. But I had to write songs with other music songwriters in that group. And if I would have done that, I would have jeopardized those people I was collaborating with. I would have jeopardized myself. So you have to sometimes pick your moments when you know somebody has some power. And if it's not the time to do it, then you don't do it. By the way, that guy went on to have a serious drug problem and he ended up losing everything in his, record executive title, right? He was out. So he got his payback eventually. But I guess what I'm really just trying to say is evaluate and know who you're talking to and feel the situation. And if you feel the situation, you're probably going to end up winning in the end because your intuition, your feelings, your awareness are going to get you to where you need to go and you'll be able to communicate with people effectively. So there they are, 3 awareness tools, really simple. Look, listen, feel. Thanks for listening to my stories. I think that's one of the things that I like to do. Some may be relatable, some may not be relatable to you, but I have to tell my stories in kind of validating that I know this stuff works. It's not like I'm just in a theory. I've actually been in a lot of situations, have a lot of friends and a lot of people that have used this. So when I'm storytelling, and if I go on a little long, forgive me, but it's just who I am. I have a lot of energy, right? So did you look, listen, and feel to me? Did you figure out who I am by this period of time? Okay, so bottom line is, I'm just being myself. And I'm sharing these real world stories with you as we're doing this training to validate what I'm talking about, because I know this stuff works and I want it to work for you. And when we do other, role plays and other things that we'll do with this, we'll be able to get into specifics related to you. And maybe I'll be able to give you some, pointers, or I'll be able to tell you, hey, you may want to try saying this instead of that in this situation. Because I've done a lot of this and I've watched a lot of other people do it effectively. So it's a lot of good information and knowledge. All right, so that's it, session 7. On to the final session, which is going to be a lot of fun, session 8. Thanks for listening.